It's the Musers, the podcast, Football Friends. It's George Dunham. It's Bob Stern. And Bob, we have a special football friend with us this week as we're almost to the NFL draft. It is next week in Pittsburgh. And your buddy Dominic Robinson is a special football friend. If there's anyone in this world who geeks out more about the NFL draft, it has to be Dominic.
Indeed, it's great to have him with us, and we got a lot to get to here, Dominic. I hope your chin strap is tight. We're going to need everything you got here.
Let me lace them up. I got them. Lace these cleats up. Chin strap's already done.
Good.
And let's get going, man.
We'll do the two-fist pound on each other's shoulder pads here and really get it cooking.
Yeah, let's go.
Yes, sir.
And someday we'll tell the story how Dominic and I are connected through football. We don't have time because it's time for the NFL draft, but Dominic and I know one of the greatest 1AA tight ends of all time in Luis Silva, but we don't have time for that story right now. Bobby made a catch on 4th and 24 at one point for a conversion.
Goodness.
You kidding me? It's the greatest fourth down conversion, has to be in football history.
The mean green, Bob.
Sounds like its own
green,
episode,
Bob.
to be honest.
Maybe. But we've got to talk NFL draft because it's almost here, and the Cowboys have so much draft capital at number 12 and number 20 overall. And when Dominic joined us last, that was about a month ago or so, and we started talking about, okay, who's available? What do you think will be there? The more we talked about it, and we were talking about a potential trade for the Cowboys, and the conversation started with them maybe trading out of that 12 spot. Well, maybe the defensive players that you like aren't there, but now all of the talk, and not just in Dallas, but around the country, so many mock drafts don't even have Cleveland at the number 6 position anymore. They have Dallas. Guys, what do you think? How likely is this that the Cowboys could get up as high as number 6? And if it's for what's being reported that the Cowboys and Browns swap picks and the Cowboys now would go 12th and 39th overall, we all raise our hand for that one, don't we?
Just to be clear, 6 and 39.
Sorry, 6 and 39. And they give up 12 and 20. Sorry.
That's right. You give up 12 and 20. So that almost matches in the points chart. The Cowboys might profit slightly, and maybe you have to give like a 5th rounder to fully even it out, but it's really close. 6 and 39 from the Browns goes to Dallas for 12 and 20. And, there are 3. I was on your radio show, Georgie, this week, for those who do both, and which you should, of course. Oh, yeah. But we talked about the 3 different price points. And the first one is the real expensive one where you go all the way to 3 and you trade like 12 and 20 to get to Arizona at 3. And you might even have to give them 12, 20, and 92 to get to 3 to match it up. And that just feels like way too expensive for me for what this team needs. And then the real cheap one is just going to like 8 or 9, New Orleans or Kansas City, and using 12 and 92 to get there. But this one is the most popular idea because you keep 2 of the top 39 picks, but you also get in front of Washington to grab Sonny Styles. And you fall back to 39 where you can still find some pretty tasty options. And you still get 2 guys who you think could probably start. And all you have to touch is 12 and 20. And why would the Browns do it? Well, the Browns need a lot. And now they can say, well, we get 2 of the top 20 players. So this is the ultimate trade idea that is catching steam because you can really see both sides saying, yeah, this makes plenty of sense for what we're trying to accomplish too. So that's how trades get done. We can throw out one-sided trades all day, but the other side would say, why would I do that? This one makes sense to me, and this one helps me secure one of my big 6, which I don't have promised at 12, so I might have to get active, and I can't get in front of the Giants at 5. So if the Giants want Styles or Caleb Downs, they're going to get them. But at 6, I get in front of Washington. I really think Washington wants Styles. They might want Caleb Downs as well. I'm not positive. I'm not sure I would go all the way to 6 just to get Caleb Downs as much as I love him, but I would go there to take care of my linebacker situation with the best guy. And so that I'm for it all night, Dominic.
Yeah, I love this because as I said last time I was on this pod, and I've said it on our podcast, the 12 spot is just it is so complicated at 12, and you got to wait for a lot of things. And if those things don't play out and you're sitting there at 12, you just got to take the best available guy. And I want to be clear in saying, if that guy is Gerard McCoy or the LSU corner, Mansour Delane, I'm not saying that you take him and it's just the worst thing that ever happened and you just completely blew up your draft. I'm just saying that is a little rich for my blood. It could work out great. Those guys can absolutely be players. But you can get them later, I believe, and have more value. So that's why you want more players. But if you can move inside of that 12, you're going to absolutely get exactly what you want. You're going to eliminate are we waiting on Downs or Styles to drop? Because the closer this gets, I don't think Downs is going to make it to 12, and I don't think Styles is going to make it to 12. Last time we were on here, I thought one of them might. I'm sitting here today, I don't think either of them will get past 10.
And so for timing, do you guys think they wait till day of the draft and even after to see how the first 3 picks go, or is that too dangerous?
I think you have to, George, because I know this sounds almost like Looney Tunes, but I do think if you show your cards, somebody trades in front of you, and then you have to trade in front of them again, and it does.
Then it becomes really expensive. Now, yes. Then you start losing out on future capital.
So in a perfect world, you have deals agreed to on draft day, but you don't announce them till they're on the clock. And you tell them as part of the deal, we'll do this provided nothing substantial changes. So you leave yourself that little wiggle room just to see how, if you're going to 6, how 1 through 5 go. If somehow, 1 through 5 takes both your guys, well, then, you have to abort. But I feel very mixed about trying to sit at 12 and be patient. There's options there. There are good football players there. And who knows, maybe you fall into CeeDee Lamb again and something like that. But I do think this year, given the time frame, the small window, the multiple firsts, I do think there's a real case for being aggressive this year and saying, okay, if I want Sonny Styles running my defense, or I want Caleb Downs being, maybe the intellectual engine of my defense for the next several years, let's not screw around. Let's go get these guys. And then at 39, it gets interesting because you would want another real important piece there. And if you get Downs at 6, well, now your linebackers fit at 39 pretty well. I think the idea that C.J. Allen, Jacob Rodriguez, and even Anthony Hill are all gone at 39, I don't buy that. I think at least 1, maybe 2, possibly all 3 are sitting there at 39. So I could get my safety and my linebacker. Or if I get my linebacker at 6, now at 39, it opens up a whole lot of more options. Maybe my nickel back. Maybe an edge in tier 2. So just to be clear who we're talking about there, and I'm not saying all these guys would show up there, but it would not surprise me if, let's say, 3 of the following 5 names are there: Cassius Howell, TJ Parker, R. Mason Thomas, Zion Young, and let's say Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida. I bet you 2 or 3 of those guys make it to 39. And so I do think I can still get 2 really good pieces with that Cleveland trade.
And do you think the Cowboys see it as based on just how they research things, that the target really is Sonny Styles, that Caleb Downs is a top 5 pick, and everyone seems to be pretty convinced, and we'll mock it up here in a second, but everyone's pretty convinced that he's going to be a New York Giant. So it looks to me anyway that this is, man, I think our target is Sonny Styles.
Yeah, I don't know.
Assuming you're going up to number 6. Yeah.
Well, you're right. And I'm not positive the Giants would do that. The Giants do feel like a team with new management in John Harbaugh and a team that does need a fair amount of pieces. But yeah, I do think we need to have some contingency plans in place. But any mock draft, we're taking calculated guesses.
Sure.
When you look at the Giants, I do think they're a pivotal spot in this whole thing, and from honestly, the more you mess with it, the more it does feel like they might go in that direction. But let's say they end up, in the Carnell Tate game, or I doubt they would do Jeremiah Love. That would almost be hilarious given their Saquon Barkley decision. But you just start going down the list of what John Harbaugh wants to do combined with what the Giants already have. I think our division bunkmates, New York and Washington, make this exercise really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to offer you guys and the listener a little perspective too, in that I would say, and this comes from my coaching background and my coaching perspective, that when we see Todd McShay's needs, what he says a team needs versus, Mel Kiper or, Daniel Jeremiah or whoever it is.
Right.
The honest reality is nobody actually knows the perspective of the organizations.
Yep.
And I'll be honest with you, 16 is probably a little low of the amount of teams that we think their needs are different than what they think their needs are. It's probably more than half that we think, they need an O-line or they need a pass rush. And the coaches in that room or the scouts in that room, the front office, their perspective is totally different because they're actually interacting with the players on a daily basis and going, yeah, our pass blocking was terrible, but I really believe in the kid who we have at guard. Mm-hmm. We don't know that. And so oftentimes you see these needs. I try not to pay attention to what the experts, quote unquote experts, tell us an organization needs, because that never gets checked in terms of like how often they're wrong. How often do we say that the Giants need a safety and, in reality, they that's not their problem. It's just we watched them play a couple times and the safety got beat.
Right.
And so, when I look at the draft, and we're going to mock this up here in a second, I look at the sort of history of where positions get picked. So quarterbacks tend to go 1, 2, and 3. An offensive the best tackle tends to go in the 4 slot. There tends to be a run on cornerbacks from 12 to 20. These are actual numbers that we have over the past 10 years that sort of normalize over the course of 10 years because, 1 year maybe you don't have as many corners, so the run on corners in 2023 might be different than the run on corners in 2021 or whatnot. But it all normalizes over time. And Bob, as you know and have watched the draft as close as I have, the more you watch and the closer you pay attention, you absolutely start to see a rhythm and a trend to all of it. And it all starts to make sense. And you don't get moved by the emotional, wow, there's this really good player, go get him, at this point, or, something like that. So, I just wanted to bring that up in terms of when we do this mock, we may say that the Bengals need, whatever, an edge rusher. The Bengals might be saying, man, our linebackers are just horrendous.
Right.
And so you think we need an edge because we lost Trey Hendrickson. But the honest truth is we have a guy in the building that we feel can at least get us over, but we don't have that at linebacker. Mm-hmm. And our perspectives are way off usually based off of, the team. And some of it is because they're flawed too.
Right.
That's the thing to think about is a lot of times it's because they're idiots and they think they have something that they don't have. We
always have to consider the fact that the other people are idiots, and also sometimes you're planning a year in advance that we have so and so, they're about to be a free agent. We know their asking price is insane, so let's get their replacement now, and we'll be prepared to do one more year with both of them. But then he'll have his job. There's no way we can anticipate those internal conversations until they show their cards on draft day. So a lot of this is guessing, but that's also part of the fun. George, before we get down to business, though, you got to tell me what you think of 6 and 39 for 12 and 20. Are you dancing there too?
I'm totally there. Yeah, because I think you get the impact player, whether it is Downs or Styles, and just like you mentioned at 39, I think you can have your pick of players who can also help on the defensive end. Yeah, I've always liked that. That makes a lot more sense to me. Can I ask you guys,
who do you, if it's not those two guys, who else do you know? Because let's also, we haven't talked about Ruben Bain potentially sliding. Do you like Bain there? Or is there anyone else that you potentially think that they could be, or maybe if they don't go to 6, or maybe if they don't go to 6, maybe if they go to, 7 or 8, who do you like, if it's not Styles or Downs?
See, I think that's a great question. Do the Cowboys have a list of 5 or 6 defensive players? Bob and I had it at 6 last time. And it would be Bailey, Reese, Downs, Styles, Bain, and Delane, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I'll leave anybody out? I don't think so.
No, those are the 6, but how many would you trade up to 6 to get?
That's my question.
I would say only 2.
Is there anyone in that list that you don't like to move up to 6 for?
Yeah, I'm not trading up for Bain or Delane.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say it's between the 2 Ohio State guys.
Yeah, in fact, well, yes, you're right, but I guess if somehow David Bailey slid to 6,
or Bailey or Reese if they
and Arvell Reese,
the other
so
Ohio
those
State
4.
Guy, yeah.
The Bain thing, I'll be honest with you, Dominic, you and I have talked a lot about Ruben Bain, and I really like him. I really do. I just don't know if it's weird, man. It's the arm length and it's the body shape, and there's something that says if he gets to 12, we're partying. But if I have to give more than 12 to get him, if I have to give 12 and 20 to get him or something like that, I just don't know if I'm willing to fly in the face of like a decade of measurables and just say I'm that sure. So with Delane, I would probably move up to 9. With Bain, I probably need him to fall in my lap, and I'm not proud of myself for arriving at that verdict. But at 6, it's for one of my 2 Buckeyes, maybe one of my 3, but I just don't think Reese makes it that far. But Styles or Downs, I would boogie up there, especially if I keep that number 39. That's my answer.
I got one more.
David.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dominic.
I was just going to say, maybe we're looking at a Texas Tech party with David Bailey and Jacob Rodrigo.
Oh my gosh!
At 39, and how great would that be?
That'd be insane, and we would get our guns up, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, I got one for you real quick before we get to the mock. Let's just say hypothetically, as we talk defense for the Cowboys at 12, and let's say they can't get a deal done with Cleveland. Maybe someone gives the Browns a sweeter deal and they trade up with the Browns, and Kansas City doesn't want to deal with you at 9, and you are at 12, and all of these defensive guys we've talked about are off the board, all 6 of them. Maybe not likely with Delane. Maybe he's still there. But let's just say hypothetically he is not there, or maybe the Cowboys don't really like him that much. And Jeremiah Love slides to number 12.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all do? And you're at 12, and now at this point, do you do what Dominic had us doing a month ago and trade down? Or do you think, man, this is a dude? By the way, he reminds me of Emmett. Maybe that's a terrible comp, but I don't know. He's probably faster than Emmett, but just his vision, the way he dances through a hole, and I just love watching the guy run. I think that would be really interesting if a player like that is there at 12.
He is great. I love him. But like you said, a month ago, I was on the trade down, train, and I'm really on it. I text Bob earlier this week. I'm really on it now. Like I really want to go down and get an extra 1 or 2 defensive players.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this draft is so strong on defense. Like we're talking about Rodriguez, in the 39 spot, or maybe even further down. Like, that's a really good player to go get, that late. And there's a lot of good players down there. I'm just loving that. I'm not taking Jeremiah Love at 12 if I can get down, but if I get stuck and nobody will make that trade with me, then yeah, I mean, you got to take like I said earlier, you got to take the best player if nobody will trade down with you. I don't draft for need at 12 if the need is a player that's, not comparable to the best player. They've got to be even. So
yeah, grade wise, Jeremiah Love, if he's there, he'll easily be the best player available.
Right.
And
right.
I hate
so
to,
if you
I
can't
hate to
go
admit
down,
that.
you got to take them. Yeah.
You probably do. I would be tempted, and maybe I said this last week, Georgie, but Dylan Thieneman would probably be my next defensive player that would get me fired up, but gosh, that feels rich at 12.
I can't do it, man, and I love him. I think he's phenomenal, but I can't do him at 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see who is there at 12 for the Cowboys in our Football Friends mock draft. How about that? Let's get started with number 1 in the Las Vegas Raiders, and we'll do that coming up next. The draft is always a mystery. Who's going to go where? Who slides? Who's a surprise pick in the top 5 or top 10? There is no surprise at number 1. It's been talked about for months. I suppose something crazy could happen, but we get set for the Fernando Mendoza show in Vegas, and we haven't spent any time talking about him. We don't have to spend a lot of time talking about him right here. Bob, you got a chance to visit with him. He's such an impressive kid on so many different levels.
True.
This seems to be a no-brainer, and man, could the Raiders actually be gaining some ground in football legitimacy given who their coach is now, the Tom Brady influence, and the fact that they're going to get what appears to be a really, really good quarterback and someone who could send them forward.
Yeah, I guess the only interesting question here is how does he measure up against some of the other 1-1 quarterbacks, and do we think he's really like Matthew Stafford level, Andrew Luck level? That's an interesting sports talk segment, I suppose. I don't know if it's relevant in this particular draft, because this particular draft, you have a franchise that is starved for a franchise quarterback, and there's only one franchise quarterback in this group. And so, some years you get number 1 and it's LeBron, and other years you get number 1 and it's Andrew Bogut. So I'm not saying Fernando Mendoza as Andrew Bogut, but I'm also not saying he's LeBron. I like him a lot, and I wish him well, and I hope Las Vegas doesn't ruin our beautiful boy. But I do think that this is a real exciting time for those Vegas folks, and I can't imagine they would go in any other direction, and I think he'll do a great job for them.
Yeah, they could take a big jump. Maybe even next year. Who knows? He may get absolutely smothered next year, but he's got a running back. They added all that in free agency on defense, so who knows? Maybe the Raiders take a big jump here in the next couple of years. Up next, the New York Jets. I thought this was a given, but are they having a David Bailey, Arvell Reese debate right now, Dominic?
This was a tough one for me because I had David Bailey, for a long time as the best front defender. And I just think he's a special talent. And that's just a great place to start when you're going to rebuild a defense or build a defense.
Yeah.
But Arvell Reese is, I don't know that David Bailey is generational in the way that Arvell Reese is. He seems to be literally created in a lab, similar to Sonny Styles, except for he's got a little bit more production. And so, man, that's a really tough one with the value of an edge defender that could potentially do something else. I don't want to speak for the Jets, but I personally, with my coaching background and sort of the system that I run, he has more value than a David Bailey has value for me because I'm going to actually use him in those ways. And this was sort of the Micah debate, which was like, how are you going to implement him being an off-the-ball linebacker and an edge? Mm-hmm. And can you even do that? Is that something that your system even lends itself to? So I think that's an interesting question and something to watch, as his career develops. Does he end up being Micah, or does he end up just being, an off-ball linebacker, or does he end up just being an edge? Which is kind of what ended up, with Micah, it turns out to be. So, but I think it's David Bailey. I think in this case, I think they're going to go David Bailey.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Jets take Bailey.
The Red Raiders off the board, and that means Arvell Reese goes number 3 to Arizona, correct?
Yeah, I think that's probably smart. Now, if I'm Arizona, I do start thinking about those offensive linemen, but I think you're right. I think if Reese falls to you, you get all excited, and we do know the Cardinals can use some playmakers. So those three feel like a pretty easy 1, 2, 3. I'm not positive we're going to get the order spot on, but yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. It seems like there is a push, and I don't know if that's just those who are reporting on it around the country just kind of settling in on, okay, well, this is where he goes because he's a dynamic running back. Is this where Jeremiah Love ruins our hypothetical of being around at 12 and goes to Tennessee?
Man, I don't think so. Maybe. I mean, I do know there's smoke around it, but I'm going to try to just look at what I would do if I was Tennessee. And what I would do is I got to get Cam Ward some help. And I got to feel good about whether that help is offensive line or wide receiver. And there's some very tasty wide receiver options here. I think Dominic and I both agree that Jordan Tyson is our favorite wide receiver, but for their particular spot, I don't think it's crazy to pitch Carnell Tate as a always get open guy as well. So let me punt this over to Dominic. Who are you taking it for?
Well, let me just preface this by saying the highest probability in terms of the history of the draft in this spot is an edge. This is a 40% of the time an edge gets taken right here. So this is not Tennessee's need necessarily, but just, this is typically an
Would
end
you do
spot.
that? Would you do that to poor Cam Ward though?
I I don't know.
Don't you get? We gotta get the guy some help, don't we?
Yeah. We probably do. I'm gonna punt. I'm punting this over to George.
Oh shoot! Well, I had loved going there, but if you guys, that makes sense to me to get Maui Goa. Is that where he goes there? Is that too high for him? Or
so it's. I think they, with Skoronski and J.C. Latham, their first round picks in 23 and 24, and then Cam Ward in 25. I'm going to get him a wide receiver. So I think the chalk says Carnell Tate. If I can put him with Calvin Ridley and a Umayor, I think now we have the basis for a pretty nice little outside receiver group. Give them a chance. I know they've got Wan'Dale Robinson in there now. Let's give them Carnell Tate.
Okay. So the first wide receiver's off the board to Tennessee at number 4. And that brings us to the New York Giants and John Harbaugh trying to make his stamp in the Big Apple. And we just talked about it a minute ago. Is this where Caleb Downs, who's on the Cowboys' radar, the safety from Ohio State, is taken?
Go ahead. Get in there, Dominic. Who do you like? I honestly, just to the safety thing, they just spent on Javon Holland and they just drafted Tyler Nubin from Minnesota. I'm not saying they love their safety spot. It just, because nobody knows what Harbaugh thinks, but they did keep their GM. That's an interesting one right there. I think with a full allotment of ammunition, you can make a case for wide receiver. You can make a case for offensive line. You got anything, Dominic?
I think it's a receiver here, and I personally think it was going to be Tate, but we just took Tate.
Yeah.
So now you're going, the next guy. So you're talking Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson. I don't know necessarily. I don't follow the Giants. I don't know. I guess the Giants just got Harbaugh, right?
Yeah.
So I do know his system. I'm going to go Mekhi Lemon.
Okay.
All right.
The wide receiver from USC goes there, according to the Football Friends mock draft. So Tate, Lemon, Reese, Bailey are off of the board. And by the way, if this does happen, the Cowboys get to the edge of their seats and go, holy smokes, okay. All right.
Right.
2 receivers taken in the top 5. This is great. So if they could trade up to 6, they would have their choice of Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles.
Yes.
If Cleveland stays there, are we going to act like everyone else's mock draft and give the Cowboys the 6th overall pick? I think we need, for this exercise, and I think we need to give them 12.
Yeah.
So then with
keep them at
6,
12.
with Cleveland on the clock at 6, man, it's dealer's choice. They need so many different things. Maybe they go best player and go Sonny Styles there, huh?
That's interesting. I don't think it's impossible, but I do think they really want to help their offense. And again, this is why they would get out of here, because they were planning on taking a wide receiver, and there's no way they thought 2 wide receivers would be gone by the time they got to number 6. I didn't anticipate that either, but this is why you do this exercise, is be prepared for anything. I honestly think if this board happened exactly like it is, and they could do anything they wanted here, and knowing that they kind of like their linebacking spot as it is, because they got that Carson Schlesinger in there last year, and so I don't think they'd look at Sonny Styles that closely. I think they want to help their offense, so if they can't trade out, I think they're going Jordan Tyson. I really do. Wow. So we now have 3 wide receivers.
Now the Cowboys
in a row.
are really celebrating right now.
That's right.
Well, let me just say I'm going Moaga here. If I did, I don't know their tackle situation though.
Well, I mean, the only thing, So you're thinking Francis Mauanoa from Miami?
Sorry. Yeah.
And the only reason I did not give them a lineman is they just went and got Zion Johnson and Elton Jenkins and Titus Howard, 3 starters on their offensive line in March.
Oh, yeah.
And so you add that to big DeJuan Jones at left tackle, and you're not crazy. Maybe the best player on the board is Francis Mauanoa. In fact.
Yeah.
I'm willing to have you talk me into that. That's reasonable because you know my take on Mauanoa. I would take him at number 3. I think he's an absolute stud, and that would be very exciting. So let's alter out of my hilarious idea of going with 3 straight wide receivers and alter it to Mauanoa because that's very Cleveland of them. That would be offensive line, and if you're a bad team, you should always be looking offensive line.
Okay, so there our first offensive lineman goes.
Yeah.
Although I did see, again, I'm looking at monitoring as many mocks as I can. I did see them with a wide receiver, and I don't think that's crazy, Bob, to say that they would take Jordan Tyson.
I don't either.
At number 6, but
okay. You know what, George? I think that I think we need to be aware that from 4 through 7, when you look at these teams in Tennessee, New York, Cleveland, and Washington, 4 through 7, I think any one of them could be thinking wide receiver, and multiple could be going wide receiver. And I think Washington is absolutely still on that list. So we've been saying Sonny Styles this, Caleb Downs that, but Washington definitely wants to help its quarterback.
Yeah.
And they know Terry McLaurin and you know what they were doing last year with Deebo Samuel, that's over. So if it is over, now take a look at the rest of their wide receiver depth chart, and you're seeing Treylon Burks, you're seeing De'Ami Brown and Van Jefferson. So Luke McCaffrey is in the slot. They're not against that. But when you say at number 7, who is a blinking light to go get weapons for Jaden Daniels, I would imagine Washington's on that list as well.
Okay, so in either way, we can take Tyson and go off the list, right?
Yeah, I think
they'll take either one. Or do we try to go where there's smoke of Sonny Styles going to Washington?
Dominic, break our tie because both of those sound reasonable for Washington.
Let's go Tyson.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I agree. I think with Frankie Louvu and Leo Chanel at linebacker for Washington, they like Sonny Styles, but I think they would take Jordan Tyson as well.
Okay, so now the Cowboys are thinking, holy smokes.
Boy, do we sound like homers.
We're
getting everybody to the Cowboys.
Caleb Downs is falling, and so is Sonny Styles. Then that brings us to New Orleans. And with these guys still on the board, one of those Ohio State defenders goes here, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
I think
What
they
about
expected
Bain?
to see somebody like Bain, who I've seen going into New Orleans, but man, would they still take him if both Downs and Styles are on the board?
Let me look at the New Orleans scene just to make sure, because I'm trying to think of what they're doing at edge these days, and I just want to browse that real quickly here. They're obviously in a rebuild. Things are a little thin at edge right now. Where
it's looking like they need wide out linebacker and edge.
Yeah, and aside from Olave, it's pretty slim there. Linebacker, yeah. I mean, look, they're a ways away. They still harbor Chase Young, and Brian Breesy is that Clemson dude who's over 300 pounds. I mean, to me, this would be a delightful place to put Bain, but also Sonny Styles makes a lot of sense for me here as well.
Okay. My guess would be Sonny Styles. You down with that, Dominic?
Yeah, if Styles is there, I think you got to take him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he goes to New Orleans. Now the Kansas City Chiefs would be up next. And I've seen all sorts of different scenarios for him. I've seen Bain for them. I've seen receiver for them. What do you think the Chiefs are thinking at number 9?
I think we got to help this defense, and receiver's been cleaned
out. Now the receivers are gone.
So
Bain?
Let's see.
I like Caleb Downs.
Okay.
He's not getting past 10.
No,
so he's either here or he's the next one.
I do think Caleb Downs goes here probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Cowboy pennants start
Downs
to
are
lower
delaying.
just a little bit.
Now they lost a couple corners, so it's not crazy. I mean, you know who their third corner is right now, George? Khair Elam. So,
yeah, they might want to look at corner then.
but
we've seen that movie.
Yeah. But they have another first rounder. They pick at 29 again. I think Caleb Downs is your best player available if I'm Kansas City.
Okay. Well, if the Cowboys don't trade up now, those are the two players we talked about so much, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, going back-to-back in the Football Friends mock draft. When we come back, we'll get to number 10. We're getting really close to Dallas picking at number 12, and we'll do that next. Okay, little exercise here, a little more than a week away from the NFL draft. The Football Friends mock draft. It's George Dunham, Bob Sturm, and Dominic Robinson. We're going pick by pick, and we're up to pick number 10. Just to recap, Fernando Mendoza goes number 1 to Las Vegas. David Bailey from Texas Tech to the Jets. Arvell Reese from Ohio State, the linebacker, has gotten so much pre-draft pub, goes to Arizona at number 3. Carnell Tate, his teammate on the offensive side, wide receiver, goes to Tennessee. The Giants take another receiver, and Malachi Lemon from USC. Cleveland, then this is where we have a – wait a minute. Okay, yeah, we got it. Offensive tackle. They go Francis Mogawa from Miami. Then at number 7, Washington decides not to get outdone at the wide receiver position. They go Jordan Tyson. New Orleans then takes Sonny Styles from Ohio State. Caleb Downs goes right behind him to Kansas City. 2 Cowboy targets. We have 2 teams on the clock before the Cowboys pick at number 12. Cincinnati, they go corner next, Bob.
Man, I'm going to keep Joe Burrow upright.
Okay.
I love what we have at guard in this draft, especially given the way Cincinnati has had such a hard time putting their line together. Vega Ioane, for me, would be what I would recommend the Bengals to do. So I technically would say that Spencer Fano is higher on my board, but when you can get maybe the premier guard in this draft, right in the interior of that Bengals line at 10, that's pretty appealing to me. I don't know if Dominic will fight me on that, but I like Vega quite a bit, and I think Joe Burrow will like him too.
Yeah, I have them going O-line, and then they're very similar to the Cowboys. If a defensive guy falls to them, they got to take him, one of those Ohio State guys. I would go Fano, but I don't know their tackle situation.
Yeah. It's I think they're still in on Amarius Mims at right, and at left they have the former Chief Orlando Brown. I don't know what his contract looks like, but let's not get too lost in those weeds. But something along those lines.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ioane, the offensive lineman, goes to Cincinnati. That puts Miami on the clock at number 11. Are they having the same discussions in Miami that the Cowboy fans have had about Keldrick Falk, the edge from Auburn? Now that the receivers are off the board, someone for Malik Willis to throw to, what do the Dolphins do here?
What do you say, Dominic?
I think Delane. This is where Delane goes, and the Cowboys are freaking out now because that's probably where they would have to go if they can't trade down, and now they're scrambling because that's the best defender left and probably the last true top 10 player left on the board.
Well.
I see it as their second biggest need, Miami at corner.
Yeah. Now they need everything, and the thing to remember about Miami, and you might want to pull this cut for next week or the week after, is they are the type of team to be working the phones and to let somebody slide right in front of Dallas too, because they are a blinking light that says we are open for business, especially if the wide receivers are gone. That's the thing. Kansas City and Miami, and Kansas City and Miami, especially at 9 and 11, they're in the wide receiver market, you would think, to a certain extent. And especially when you look at that Miami depth chart, where you see their wide receiver spot right now is just a joke. But if wide receivers cleaned out, again, they would probably grab somebody or trade out of there, and both of those would hurt the Cowboys, I would think.
Okay, so here is that scenario. The defensive players outside of Bain are off the board, but Bain is still there for the Cowboys at 12. Do you go Bain or do you go Jeremiah Love?
I didn't get to. Oh, go ahead.
I'll go first.
Yeah,
we're doing Ruben Bain if he's here.
Yeah, I didn't get to say it earlier. I meant to say this. If I actually am trading up at 6, and I'm taking Bain at 6 if I can.
Wow.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
So
okay.
When we talked about that earlier and talking about trading up, I wanted to make sure I got that out there. I want that to be public, that if I can get up to 6, I'm taking Bain at 6. I love him.
To clarify that, Dominic, you think Ruben Bain is a better player than Sonny Styles?
No. Let me take that. Let me walk that back. If Styles is gone, yes. If Styles is gone, which I don't think Styles would be gone. But I was just saying, when we were talking about getting up there to 6, I'm not getting up there to get Bain, but if for some reason Styles is gone,
yeah,
now I'm going to go ahead and go Bain.
Okay, well now I'm going to continue to interrogate you then.
Sounds like we may have a fight here in the draft.
Bain, all right, so no, we're in agreement. Styles over Bain. Where's Downs in this?
I'm taking Downs over Bain also.
All right, so okay, now Downs over Styles.
For the Cowboys or for me?
Stack those 3 for the Cowboys.
For the Cowboys, it's Styles, Downs, Bain.
Okay, we agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
George?
Yeah, I'm with that. I would go Bain at number 12 if he was there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we may have gotten out of whack here somewhere because I don't think he's going to be there. But
No. I was just saying earlier I proposed, what do we think about
who would you
Bain?
trade up to 6 for?
Yeah, and I was just saying, if those guys weren't there, I had proposed, hey, if those 2 guys aren't there, is there anyone else that you would take? And I'm just saying I would actually do Bain. Both of you guys said you wouldn't, or I think, Bob, you said you wouldn't. I would do Bain at 6. Now, I don't think that there's a case where Styles and Downs are gone and Bain is there. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't have a problem with Bain at 6.
No, I don't either. I think the real pressure points would be, would New Orleans and Kansas City stack Styles, Downs, and Bain the same way we would? Because that's interesting, because we gave Styles to New Orleans even though they could have had Downs and Bain, and then we gave the Chiefs Downs even though they could have had Bain. And I think in both cases, it's very possible those 2 teams might see Ruben Bain higher than Caleb Downs, if only because it's an edge rusher versus a safety. Yeah. And a run and hit linebacker over an edge rusher. So again, this is very blurry, George, but it's a fun exercise where on the good news is 4 of your big 6 make it all the way to pick 8. Styles, Downs, Delane, and Bain, which means almost certainly the Cowboys will get one of those just by sitting at 12. You just can't decide which one because the other teams get to decide that. So it's a worthy exercise, even though I'm sure we're way off base.
We're screwing up something probably, but just for the sake of discussion, I think the Cowboys are really happy with Ruben Bain, and you guys know more about it than I do, but I'm not too afraid of an edge who's got short arms. I just know he kills folks, and hard to block, and just high motor, and I love the guy.
Yes.
I'm in on him, and especially if he's at 12. This is sort of, to me, it's a dream scenario because there's no, like I said, there's no other top 10 players, potential top 10 players left, defensive players left. So if he does get to 12, you just dodged a bullet because everyone, McCoy, it would be probably the next guy, the corner from Tennessee. He's got a leg issue, potential injury maybe. So he's not a top 10, potential guy. There's no one else left. So you really dodged a bullet here with getting Bain. And the arm thing doesn't bother me. It bothers Bob a lot more than it bothers me. The arm length.
Bob has really long arms. Maybe we should draft Bob.
Well, no, I mean, honestly, I don't mind arm length if I think you are incredibly twitched up. The thing about Bain that troubles me is I think he wins with power and short arms. And while I recognize that we should just watch the doggone games and watch him destroy people, I'm trying to think of any comps at like 270 that one was short arms but pretty much all power. Like, I can give you short arms and huge twitch. That's why Cassius Howell doesn't bother me. That's why, Micah Parsons, huge twitch. I'll just run around you with my short arms and go bury your quarterback. But I'm going to run through you guys like Ruben Bain. I'm not saying he isn't the first one, that he isn't, the guy who made the template. But I just can't think of any others in the recent draft games that remind me of Ruben Bain. He's such a unique body type, is what I'm saying.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll have that debate if the Cowboys do take him at number 12. But there we are. Let's get to 20 though, folks. Let's go 13 through 19 relatively fast. The Rams would then be next. Best player on the board, Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle.
That's where I'm going. I would go help that offensive line, and I think Fano would be great for them, especially with the scheme they run. I think he's just a real solid zone offensive lineman. I think he'd be great. Okay,
you're in agreement with us there, Dominic?
Yes, sir. That'll work.
And I go back to when we were talking about the Texas Tech Utah game. There were a lot of college scouts there for that game to see Fano going up against the Texas Tech front seven. Okay, then Baltimore at 14. A lot of mocks have Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, going to Baltimore. We good with that?
I love that. I would keep an eye if I know Baltimore, and maybe I don't anymore now that they have kind of new management, but you would always keep an eye on somebody like Jermod McCoy going to Baltimore and then running off a great decade. But I also want to keep an eye here on Dylan Thieneman. He fits.
Oh yeah, there.
That's really who Bob liked for the Cowboys. If Bain is off the list, maybe is that too high to take him, y'all think? If the Cowboys 14. Did have that opportunity at 12 and Bain's gone.
I think the teens are the Thieneman neighborhood. If he gets to 20, I'll be amazed. Yeah. But also 12 feels a little rich.
Yeah, 12 is a little early.
Which feels like quite a riddle. The tight end thing though, Georgie, why don't you lean into that one, because they got cleaned out a little bit in free agency behind Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews is not getting younger. So if you gave me Kenyon Sadiq to Baltimore, I think they would be high-fiving on that one.
Is Likely gone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Likely? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Isaiah Likely is now a player on another team.
Yeah, they lost him in free agency to...
where is he now? He is a New York Giant?
Yes.
Wow. That's a
for
good
the
get
Giants.
for them.
Look out
That
for the
is,
Giants.
yeah.
All right, so we got...
and you think Harbaugh had anything to do with that?
Imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, Kenyon Sadiq goes to Baltimore, number 14. Tampa on the board. Ioane, the offensive lineman's off the board. We had him going much earlier. I've seen him in a lot of mock drafts. You got another offensive lineman that the Bucs may take?
Let's see.
maybe Freeling?
Bono's gone.
He's gone.
You know what? Freeling
No.
is not
where
crazy.
Where did Fano go? Oh,
We gave him
before
to the
Sadiq.
Rams.
We just gave him,
Yeah. So I like Freeling Freeling here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
So back-to-back offensive linemen. Cowboys like that. They think that's pretty cool. He goes to Tampa. Now the Jets back on the board. We had them taking David Bailey with the second overall pick. They want to go offense here, I would imagine, but all the receivers are gone. Any idea what they may do?
I think they lost Sauce Gardner in a trade last year, and I'm going with Jermod McCoy. I think they would be thrilled with that.
And what do y'all? Is that okay for a draft position for McCoy? I know
I think that's perfect. That's exactly where I have him. Yeah.
I think Georgie. I think he's a top 10 talent, and we just don't know about the knee. I like him better than Delane when it comes to the tape, but Delane's medicals are a lot cleaner. So this is one of those picks where you're like, man, they might have just got a dude at 16. But again, there's some guesswork there.
Okay. I've seen Detroit mocked up to take a lot of or several different offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And with Freeling now gone, does that mean Proctor would go to Detroit?
They get married to Proctor a ton. They like him more than I do, but I know Dominic is totally in on him.
I am.
And so that makes sense to me. I think they would love to pair him with their big right tackle. Or I guess, you know what? They're moving him to left, aren't they? What's his name from Oregon? Penny Sewell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're moving him to left tackle now.
Okay, well maybe Caden Proctor would be just what they need on the on the other side.
That's exactly what they need. They don't really feel great about right tackle right now. So I think we can feel good about Detroit doing a right tackle.
Okay, that puts the Minnesota Vikings on the board, Bob. That's always interesting to you. Do they steal a player that the Cowboys have an eye on in Thieneman?
100%.
Okay,
I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Is a white safety to the Vikings is a lock and a half.
I trust Bob. He's been he's all about Vikings intel through the years, Dominic. So.
And he's all about tracking the white safeties.
Yes.
He's the expert.
Dominic, you and I don't see it that way, but Bob,
he keeps white defensive backs in general. Let's just I'll track them all for you.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just 2 picks away from the Cowboys. Carolina would be next. They also need some defensive backs. What do y'all think the Carolina Panthers will do?
So what players do you have that are viable here?
Terrell, the linebacker, corner. Mm-hmm. I've seen them taking corners. Okay, here's the player where you got to start talking about with the Cowboys on the clock. Mm-hmm. I like this guy, and I'm not the evaluator that you guys are, but tell me your thoughts on Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I love that dude. I know he's out of Toledo. I don't know if Carolina would take a safety, but this is the area where I've seen him going.
That's interesting. I don't hate it. I think he would pair pretty well with Morig, the TCU strong safety. That's not bad. I'll tell you, the most fun idea I can think of is Jeremiah Love. I know.
Thank
Carolina,
you for bringing it still on the board.
Oh, wow.
I feel like Carolina would be so much fun with Jeremiah Love. Although, they have Hubbard, they have Jonathan Brooks at some point. I'm not sure, and I think they just signed AJ Dillon as well. So it's not like they got nothing.
So best players that I have: C.J. Allen, Messidor, McNeil Warren, Terrell, and Omar Cooper, aside from Love. So Love is clearly the best player on
We got to
the
get
board.
Jeremiah Love off the board.
He's got to go,
don't we?
Yeah, he's got to go here.
Yeah,
just to
save
the Cowboys.
Well, the football friends. Yeah, we're all over the map here, but I think we're pretty close on some. But I just don't think that's going to be a scenario where Carolina they would be thrilled. You start talking about Bryce Young, McMillan, and now you bring in Jeremiah Love. What they added to their defense. Man, Carolina may be going places if this happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't hate that.
That brings us to the Cowboys at 20. And the question I think a lot of Cowboy fans will have, if you've taken an edge, do you take someone who can play the inside linebacker position? I think in reality, this would be a trade down by the Cowboys, and maybe you pick up a second-round pick. But let's just give them a pick here at 20. You've taken an edge. Is it too high for C.J. Allen? Bob and I say no. Is that crazy, Dominic?
That is not crazy. And if I can get C.J. Allen here to pair with Bain, I am dancing in the streets tonight. That's a good first two picks. Those are two very good players. Well coached. They're going to come in and be impact players right away. So I love that. I'll go back and just say I've loved Messidor at this spot, and I still do. But obviously, if Bain is the guy, I don't know that you can do Bain and Messidor in the same draft. It'd be great. I do think this spot is, if Messidor drops to you at 20, you got to take him. Obviously if you don't have an edge, but if CJ Allen's there, you take him and you pair these two and you've got yourself a heck of a draft haul in your first round picks. That's the way I feel.
Let's at least put our next 5 available, so we do the table talk here briefly.
Okay.
I think we should think this through a little bit, and I'm riffing off the top of my head here who's available. If you got a better list, Dominic, let me know. But I see Caden McDonald. I see Keldrick Falk. I see, who else am I looking at? Chris Johnson, San Diego State. Caleb Banks, Florida.
TJ Parker.
TJ Parker, Clemson. This is all going to be eye of the beholder, of course.
What do y'all think of Colton Hood? Too high
Colton
for him
Hood's here? Honestly, that's not a crazy idea. I think 20 is about right for Colton Hood as well. And so if you want to go DB, you could. But if you ask me, this exact scenario plays out, would they take C.J. Allen over Keldrick Falk? I'm saying there's no way they would do that. They would take Keldrick Falk if he's still
there's that
sitting
name
there.
again.
Because I think you would look at Bain as more of a linebacker edge, and I think you would look at Falk as more of like a 5 technique defensive end who could play right next to Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark. Bigger than Osa in terms of 6'6", and he played at about 290 last year. I think they would do that. I want to hear what Dominic thinks of that.
I agree. I don't see, again, for me, I love C.J. Allen again, the Georgia pedigree and all of that.
Yep, me too.
So I'm giving you, when I say that, I'm giving you my pick. I'm not giving you who I think the Cowboys are going to get. And I could definitely see them, taking Keldrick Falk there. And that would not be a bad pick or a reach or anything like that. That's interesting. The PFF mocks have the Cowboys taking Keldrick Falk more than any other player.
Yeah,
which is
at number 12,
interesting
right?
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 12. So so the fact that if he's there at 20, them taking him, I don't think that would be the craziest thing. So,
and those honestly, the way we've done this, and we may be dead wrong here, but the way we've done it does leave a lot of wiggle room for a ton of those interior defensive line guys. And what we're talking about there is Ohio State's Caden McDonald, Caleb Banks from Florida, Peter Woods from Clemson, and I put Keldrick Falk in that group because I don't think he's actually a stand-up edge. I at 6'6", I just think that's crazy. I think he's a long defensive end who can. He's 20 years old, guys, and I know people love to kind of hate on Keldrick Falk because he didn't have 10 sacks this year, and it's not great. I would love to have seen more production from this year, but gosh, he can't even drink legally. I just think this is a rare body type, and I love C.J. Allen, I love Jacob Rodriguez, but I just know the Cowboys are pretty married to best player available that can help their defense, and I think they see Keldrick Falk as, Kenny Clark isn't going to be here forever, and here's a dude who's 20 who can really be a dude on the defensive line who will stop the run. We know how important that is to them. If it plays out like this, I think they would forego linebacker to take Keldrick Falk Auburn. That's my pick.
Okay.
Can I ask you guys? So I have not looked at 20, trading down from 20 as heavily as I have 12. Actually, I don't know that I've looked at all.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Is that something we do? I would love to have that conversation. That's a conversation for another day. But
no, I think that's a good one.
that.
I think I would do it. If those are my choices, if it falls similar to what we have, I would trade down. And then I think for sure it brings in Anthony Hill, C.J. Allen, J. Rodriguez, all those guys.
Yeah,
I think it brings in the second round that someone's just traded you to get up to number 20.
Yeah, I think we should look at that in the week to follow here, because that'd be 850 points, and so what we would be looking for is somebody who can maybe give us, I don't know, pick 35 and 65, something like that, where you get a high second and a high third for your second first. I think that would be great business, and I think that does put you in a range where you feel good about taking best linebacker available at, say, 35, and then you turn around at 65 and you can add another key player that you weren't expecting to have. And now, we know how the Cowboys like doing this, Georgie. They entered the offseason with no second and no third, and now they would leave in that scenario with a second and 2/3. Yeah. And I think that would be pretty exciting for them.
And especially in this scenario, when at 12 you get a top 10 player. That's where I think this comes into play. If at 12 you get stuck with like McCoy, or you get stuck with the guy that you maybe just fell, then you don't want to trade that 20 spot. But if you get somebody, if you steal somebody that should have been gone, that should have gone before 12, one of those Ohio State defenders somehow slips, or something like that, then that's where I think, man, you really got to look at getting out of that 20 spot. If you could go get, like I said, a Rodriguez and another defensive player in that, Keldrick Falk later, something like that. That's a great little scenario.
We have the Cowboys at number 12 going with Reuben Bain out of Miami, and then Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. Really adding to your defensive front, Falk at number 20.
George.
and that is the Cowboys would be happy about that. And no matter what team you are in the NFL, if you have picks 12 and 20 and that's who you got, I think any team would go, man, you got really good value there. You've had a really good first round, especially if you're trying to rebuild a defense like the Cowboys are.
Yeah, they should put us in charge for sure.
I don't know. Man,
Where do we sign up for that, George? Do you have that sign-up sheet?
I don't know. I'm going to look for that sign-up sheet out at the Star, and I'll see if we get signed up for draft day, and we'll work our way into the war room. How about that? Well, that was fun, if nothing else. Just an exercise to see how it could go for the Cowboys next week in the NFL draft. And we'll be back to talk more about it next time here on Football Friends. Special edition this week with Dominic Robinson, along with Bob Sturm. I'm George Dunham. Thanks to Peter Welton for producing our little Football Friends mock draft, and we'll talk to you next time.